Good afternoon. This is the Chorus Call conference operator. Welcome, and thank you for joining the Italgas 9 months 2023 results conference call. As a reminder, all participants are in listen-only mode. After the presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. Should anyone need assistance during the conference call, they may signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on their telephone. At this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Ms. Anna Maria Scaglia, Head of IR of Italgas. Please go ahead, madam.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. Today, we will walk you through Italgas 9 months 2023 results. I'm Anna Maria Scaglia, Head of IR, joined by Mr. Paolo Gallo, our CEO, and Mr. Gianfranco Amoroso, our CFO. We will address any question you might have at the end of the presentation. I leave now the floor to our CEO, Mr. Gallo.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this conference call. I'm going to show you the result that we achieved in the first 9 months of 2023. As on the slide number 2, on page number 2, you can see an impressive growth that we have recorded in the last 9 months, with double-digit increase in all the areas, in all the key operating drivers. Revenues were up strongly by 26%, and the trend is similar to the other, what we have already recorded in the previous 2 quarters. And this is the 2 main drivers of such increase are the consolidation of Greece, number 1, and second, the strong growth of the energy efficiency company. At the same time, the RAB growth and the deflator in Italy, regarding the gas distribution in Italy, has offset the dilution from the disposal of Naples. Similar, we can see that the total OPEX that I will talk about in a while were up year-over-year, and this is not surprising for the same reason that I have explained for the revenues. Regarding distribution business, costs remain fully under control when understanding the inflation impact. Overall, considering our cost of debt, our adjusted net income grew by almost 11%. If we switch on slide number 3, we look at the cash flow, CapEx, and debt. This time, we decided to make a different representation with respect to the past, showing the operating cash flow for all the activity except the Geoside, so the energy efficiency company, considering the absorption of the cash flow that either myself and Gianfranco will explain later. So if you take a look at that, you can see that the operating cash flow, excluding the energy efficiency company, has grown year after year by nearly 15%. While, because of the cash absorption of Geoside, the operating cash flow decreased 12.6% year after year. We will explain you later which is this situation. CapEx reached about nearly 600 million, similar level of last year, with a significantly different mix that I will explain in a moment. As a result of the CapEx expenditure and the cash flow evolution and the dividend that were paid in the second quarter, net debt increased by 480 million, just about 6.4 billion, excluding the IFRS 16. Let's move to the CapEx slide, slide number 4. As I said, the overall CapEx expenditure increased by nearly 8% in respect of last year, with a significantly different mix. The major difference is Greece, we nearly spent about 75 million to Greece, while the remaining amount was spent in Italy. In Italy, the effort on the digitization remained extremely strong. We invested more than 170 million euros just in the digitization component, with an increase of more than 14% versus the same period of last year. As usual, development and repurposing of the network attracted the majority of the capex for an amount that was nearly 300 million. And the number include also the remain activities still going on in Sardinia for about 40 million. In Greece, the major expenditure was related to network extension. And in fact, if we take a look at the 9 months, we added about 680 kilometers of new network, out of which 435 were in Greece. That is a significantly number. If we skip and we go to page number 5, we would like to spend a couple of slides talking about the water business. As you know, we just closed last week the acquisition of Veolia Italian Concession Water Business Unit, and I recall you the price for 115 million euros of equity, part of which is related or will be paid under a certain objective and targets that may be achieved by the operating companies. The deal is extremely important for us and makes a strategic step for our group because we are going to enter, like we have said more than 3 years ago, we are going to enter the water business. Let me underline the fact that the numbers that we are going to show you are relevant to year 2022 and therefore do not reflect any action taken from Italgas. As highlighted during my strategic plan presentation in London, water assets in Italy need a significant investment to tackle structural high leakage rates. Our initial estimates over the plan period, so in the 2024-2029, our initial estimate was for an investment required in the 3 companies of around 300 million. This is a very preliminary assumption that we included in our strategic plan, which I expect we will refine and revise as we are now able to establish a direct contact, a direct dialogue with the companies. On top of that, I should add that the 2 companies, Siciliacque and Acqualatina, has already applied and has already received approval for funds coming from the National Recovery and Resilience Plans for an amount that is 140 million euro for both of them. So which is our plan? That is our plan that we have already discussed during our presentation in London, our plan for the water distribution. Of course, we want to play an industrial role, and this is based on the expertise and the competence that we have in managing network infrastructure. Our primary focus will be to reduce the level of leaks, and our idea, the same that we have applied successfully on the gas network, is to start with a digitization of the full network. It's a relatively small investment, but it's an extremely crucial investment because we let us understanding the situation of the network, and will help us to immediately reduce the leakages of the water by what we estimate between 15 and 20%. But what is more important is that with the digitization of the network, we will be able to collect millions of data, similar to what we are doing in the gas distribution. And with those data, we will be able to prioritize the investments in the area that need more in terms of replacement of pipes or equipment. The result of this action will be to reduce the cost associated to the leaks and to use our capex in a much more clever way than in the past. And finally, we expect that we can leverage local and territorial synergies regarding construction activity in the area where we have gas distribution and water distribution. An achievement that was never achieved before by anyone, and we will going to demonstrate that it's fully possible, and we will do it in Latina area, where we manage gas distribution since many, many years, and we are going to also be involved in the water distribution through Acqualatina. Let me close with showing the financial data of the water aggregated by the three companies, including, they say, by the four companies, the three companies that we recently acquired by the closing, and the fourth company that the so-called Italgas Acqua, the concession in Caserta that we own 100%. So that is an aggregated view of 2022 financials. And in the second column, that is the equivalent of the pro quota that will be of NEPTA. NEPTA, as you know, is the new name of the water company fully owned by Italgas. It is the pro quota that will include the pro quota of Acqua Campania, the pro quota of Acqualatina, and the consolidation of Siciliacque, and of course the consolidation of the previous Italgas Acqua, so the Caserta concession that is 100% owned by us. Let me remark another time that this 2022 achieved performance did not reflect any action taken by Italgas, nor the potential positive of the new review, nor the potential positive impact of the digital transformation that we are going to try and to push also in these companies. I should remind you finally that while Acqualatina and Siciliacque have a significant RAB value, Acqua Campania business model reflect a very small ownership of the assets. It's a different business model, hence a lower margin that is included in those numbers. Now let me go back after this brief presentation about the water, but we will talk more about water in the months to come. Let me go back to the normal presentation, our ESG results that again are showing quarter by quarter significant progress toward our, and probably in acceleration toward our targets that we set for 2028 and 2030. We can see from an energy consumption point of view, we are on page number 8, that the net energy consumption was down by nearly 20% if we consider only Italy. And even if we add, so it's an addition in terms of perimeter, the Greece consumption, we are still below last year by 14.1%. The main contribution of this significantly drop comes from industrial gas consumption, which was lower thanks to the action that we implemented to improve the performance of our operating system, but also civil consumption contributed significantly thanks to the efficiency that we put in place and we achieved in managing our buildings and through a constant and daily monitoring of the performance of each single building. So we can be energy efficient also in managing real estate assets. Electricity consumption was down also to lower use by our water company. So it's a small company, but represents a significant amount of electricity consumption, thanks to the efficiency that we introduce in all the equipment that is used to pump the water from the source to the final customer. Finally, fleet optimization and improved travel planning of all our workforce keep driving lower consumption for vehicles. The reduction in the energy consumption is, of course, a direct reflection in the reduction of CO2 emission. Of course, that is not only because the major driver in CO2 emission is the gas leaks. Gas leaks were lower in Italy in respect of last year and slightly higher if we add Greece, if we include the Greek perimeter. What is still very remarkable in these first 9 months is that we have increased the kilometers inspected in Italy by 15%, exceeding 75,000 kilometers. So we are very close to have already inspected the full network. And similarly, for the first time ever, we were able to pass more than I think around 60% the kilometers inspected in Greece. And that is for the first time ever, because last year we were not the owner of the of the DEPA infrastructure. I think very little inspection on the network was performed. The decline in emission from gas consumption in vehicles reflect the trends that I explained, as I said in the previous slide, so relevant to the reduction of energy consumption. Now, let me skip to the results. So we are on page number 10 of our presentation. Our revenues, as I said at the beginning, increased by 26% in the first 9 months, mainly led by the strong contribution of our ESCO, you see on the right part of the slide, and as a second contribution, the Greek consolidation. In distribution, if we look at the Italian part, we see a growth. Thanks to the growth in the RAB and the associated deflator, we had an increase of about 40 million of higher revenues. Higher allowed OPEX in the Italian distribution, driven by the inflation, were mainly offset, nearly practically offset by negative X factor. So in other terms, we are giving back to the system the increased cost in terms of the inflation. We are giving back to the system through the X factor. Naples and Gaxa disposal accounted for nearly 50 million, 49 million in lower revenues. And finally, as I already said, DEPA contributed for 117.5 million euro, and Geoside, in respect of last year, increased the business in terms of revenue by 173.7 million. So that is the picture of the revenue. So revenue increased by 26%. We will give you a deep dive later on Geoside to show you, let me say, the key parameters and key factor of this business regarding mainly the Superbonus. If we take a look at the operating expenses were up. We are on page 11, and were up mainly driven, as you can see, by Geoside, by the energy efficiency activity. Of course, DEPA infrastructure was contributed significantly to such increase, as well as it contributed to the revenues. But if we take a look on the like for like, it's minus 0.3. So it's, let me say, I would say probably 0. So we were able to fully compensate inflation cost by our efficiency. And then I think it's unachievable, and it's a great result. And then of course the 8 million that you see is the part of the disposal of the Naples concession, as well as GACS. Let me go now on page 12, and then I will pass the floor to Gianfranco for the remaining presentation. So I'm going to finish by illustrating the EBITDA result, that is a significant increase in respect of last year, nearly 16% higher. And as you can see, there are the two main contributors are, of course, DEPA Infrastructure and the energy efficiency. As you can see also the change in the mix of EBITDA between last year, where 97% of the total was represented by the gas distribution in Italy, and 2022-23, where this number has decreased to 84%, while DEPA and Geoside representing the remaining 16%. What is remarkable is that we passed the 910 million euro as EBITDA. The ESCO business, we will see in a moment, achieve an EBITDA margin of 21%. That is absolutely remarkable. I will leave the floor now to Gianfranco for the remaining part of the presentation.
Thank you, Paolo. We are now on slide 13, talking about EBIT. In 9 months, EBIT reached almost 537 million, with an increase of about 18%. In this period, we have seen an increased EBITDA of the Italian perimeter of about 40 million as a result of the variance of revenues and OPEX that Paolo have already explained. Then we have the D&A that are higher of about 19 million. The D&A are mainly related to CAPEX deployed in 2023, so this year 9 months, in addition to the carryover impact of the CAPEX executed in 2022. Please take into account that in this figure, the disposal of Naples is neutral. So, in other words, in the 2022 accounts, the D&A of Naples were about, equal to 0. Then EBIT incremental contribution of DEPA of almost 61 million euro, reaching the level of EBIT of 536.7 million. We now move to the following slide and commenting the net profit that is about 11% increased versus 9 months 2022. Here, the main point of attention are the net financial expenses that were up almost 30 million compared to last year, mainly due to the impact of the rising short-term interest rates on our floating rate debt, including also the debt raised locally at the level of DEPA. In relation to the fixed rate portion of our debt, we have accounted the full impact of the EIB loan that we executed last December and the new bond issued in June. These two negative effects above have offset the positive remuneration on the liquidity. Please note that we also accounted in this 9-month period the cost linked to the factoring of the VAT receivable related to 2022 and first half 2023. The net contribution from associates decreased by 1.3 million, and finally, we accounted for 125 million of income taxes, marking an increase of 12 million due to a higher taxable income with a tax rate that was 26.9%. Now let's move to slide 15, summarizing all we said so far. More in details, we see a growth for the EBITDA of about 16%, EBIT about 18%, while net profit posted a 10.8% increase, mainly due to the growth of interest rates that have a growth of 31 million as commented in the previous page. Just a quick deep dive on Geoside as promised by Paolo. So we see here the strong impact of the activity boosted by the Superbonus. More in detail, Geoside in the 9 months reached the peak of its activity, mainly thanks to the traction of the Superbonus progression, with all the projects now approaching the completion of the works. Revenues were up of almost 3 times compared to last year, and EBITDA has reached 54.4 million, well above the amount of the full year 2022. Moving now to page 17, talking about the cash flow. As anticipated by Paolo, in the consideration of the different type of business, we have divided the cash flow generation of our distribution business from that of the ESCO Geoside. While the former remains strongly cash flow generative, covering the majority of the capex, Geoside is temporarily absorbing cash. More in detail, the distribution asset generated in the 9 months a cash flow from operation of 577 million, notwithstanding a working capital absorption of 70 million in the period due to lower volumes distributed year to date on the back of a milder climate. On the other side, Geoside cash flow generation was negative for almost 180 million. This was due to the growing receivable for Superbonus linked to the higher level of activity that I've commented already. Those receivables will be repaid through tax deduction in the 4 years following their origination. And I've also described this during the first half and first quarter reporting, and will have a material positive effect in the tax cash out next year, if you consider the positive contribution of the 40 million of the, let's say, fiscal receivable 2022, and in addition, the 80 million of the fiscal receivable 2023, in both cases in installments of 4 years. Net capex generated a cash outflow of almost 607 million. All this, coupled with dividends and other payments for 284 million, resulted in a net debt increase of approximately 492 million. And finally, we arrive to the net debt on page 18. I will give you an update on our debt structure and on our cost of debt at the end of September. As you know, in June, we issued a 500 million new bond, 10 or 9 years, that will cover part of the refinancing needs of next year. As a consequence of this new bond and the bank facilities subscribed in the last 12 months, our cost of debt on average reached approximately 1.4, reflecting the rise in the short-term market rates. On the asset side, we will expect that the mark-to-market of the interest rate will be factored in the regulatory WACC reset starting from January 2024. Consolidated net debt was 6.4 billion, including the IFRS 16 impact of approximately 80 million euro. In terms of structure, our debt composition remained broadly unchanged, 8% floating and 92% fixed. Now I leave the floor to Paolo for the final remarks.
Thank you, Gianfranco. Just moving to the last slide, that is number 19. Few things to be remarked. Regarding Italian distribution, the strong fundamentals led by the growth of the RAB, despite the negative impact of Naples disposal. Diversification with Greece and Geoside is a material growth driver, as you have seen. Regarding the cash flow generation, the reason why we show the difference with and without the energy efficiency is to show that the distribution cash flow generation remains solid and covering the majority of the capex. And the impact of the Geoside cash absorption is linked to the business model. We know very well. And this business model will start to revert, so we'll start to generate cash starting from next year. Just give you an idea, next year we expect to have like 120 million of tax credit to be offset in the months of June, so that is a cash generation. So we will see significantly cash generation coming from next year. Regarding what we have achieved in these 9 months, we have closed the deal with Veolia. We closed it last week, and I think what was extremely interesting is that we have achieved objective in our Greek activity ahead of schedule, significantly ahead of schedule. If you remember, we told you that we were planning to merge the 3 DSO in one single DSO. By the end of the year, we were able to do it at the end of September, so 3 months ahead of schedule. We completed the reorganization of the DEPA Infra and of course the DSO. We migrate the Greek infrastructure into cloud, so they are fully aligned with our IT model. And finally, we group all the personnel in Athens and in the nearby area in one single building. That for us is extremely important to start working as a single company. Regarding the guidance, we confirmed the guidance for 2023. Anticipating some of the questions, we are telling that the observation period to calculate the WACC has been closed by end of September. Now it's just a matter of calculation. We expect the WACC to be set, the increase of the WACC to be set between 80 and 90 basis points next year. And of course, that will drive material earnings growth that will cover the raised interest rate, will cover also, of course, the part of the inflation that we have experienced. And then I can say, generally speaking, that we are, if you look at all this number, you can really feeling the acceleration that we are giving to all our action. So we are very extremely confident to reach ahead of schedule our midterm strategic plan objective that we presented in June in London. Now we are all available here to respond to any question you may have, and I will pass the floor back to Anna Maria Scaglia.
Operator, please open the line. Thank you.
This is the Chorus Call conference operator. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone telephone. To remove yourself from the question queue, please press star and two. Please pick up the receiver when asking questions. Anyone who has a question may press star and one at this time. The first question is from Javier Suarez of Mediobanca. Please go ahead.
Hi everyone, and thank you for the presentations. 2 or 3 questions. The first one is on the.
Sorry, I interrupt you. Can you? I mean, the line is very, very bad. So can you speak slowly, because we have really hard time to understand you. Sorry for that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm on the fixed line. I will try to speak more slowly. First question is on the working capital absorption by Geoside, your energy efficiency activity. So year to date has been at minus 180 million euros. How do you see that working capital absorption by the year end? And a related question is, the CFO mentioned during his presentation that the recovery of that working capital should be during the next 4 years. Are you expecting a linear recovery of those of that amount, or can you give us
Javier, honestly, sorry to interrupt you the second time, but honestly, I did not understand anything about the second question. Really anything. I don't know which is. Maybe it's our line that is bad. Maybe it's yours. Honestly, I don't know.
I'm just speaking through the fixed line, so I don't know what to do. Yeah. Okay.
Hello? Non si può sentire così, non si capisce niente. Hello? Xavier? Hello?
Operator, can maybe switch to the next question while we wait for Xavier to reconnect?
Yes. The next question is from John Campbell of Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my questions. I think probably the first one I had perhaps predictably relates to your allowed return. So I know the observation period for your trigger mechanism has closed at the end of September. I'm mainly interested in when you expect to have a formal announcement from the regulator, ARERA. And the second question is, of course, looking further ahead now to 2025. I know the observation period there has just kicked off. But have you had any sort of discussions with ARERA, the regulator, about sort of what to expect, which should be a more substantial review than the trigger mechanism was in 2024? For example, you should be faced with a mechanically falling cost of debt. Looks to be like market rates should help prop that up. So any comments on 2025 allowed returns would be very helpful. Thank you.
We expect that ARERA before the year end, I think last year they announced it was early December, will announce the number of the new WACC. The reason why we gave you a range between 80 to 90 basis points is because there is still some elements regarding inflation that has to be, let me say, known exactly. That's the reason why that is, even if the observation period is ended, there's still some uncertainty about the inflation rate. Regarding the 2025 WACC, well, we just started the observation period, so it's hard to predict how it's going to look like. My guess is that we will be at the same level of 2024, more or less. Let me say minus plus 10 basis points.
Excellent. Thank you. That's very clear. Just one final one, if I can, related to your water strategy as well. So if you look at your strategic plan, 2023 to 2029, you had 400 million of total capex dedicated to water. Now you've spent roughly 100 million acquiring the assets from Veolia. So that leaves you, I suppose, with a 300 million indicative capex wallet. I think you mentioned that could be revised sort of in either direction. Are you able to provide sort of some idea of whether it will be revised up or down, and if that's to be a significant extent as well? Thank you.
Well, the answer is very easy. Cannot be revised down. I mean, we know exactly, and everybody knows that the water sector has been underinvested for decades. So revising the numbers down, either we are, I don't know, we do a miracle, or otherwise it's not going to happen. So if a revision will happen, we'll be up. There's no doubt. What we are doing right now, that I think it's very interesting, we are reviewing with the two companies, I'm referring to Siciliacque and Acqualatina, the ones that have received funds from our resilience and recovery plan. We are revising with them the whole investment and see if there are room to apply for additional funds to support the digital transformation of the network in particular. So we may eventually revising up the investment, and we may eventually be able to receive additional funds from the resilience and recovery plan. But generally speaking, if I have to guess, 300 will go up, not down. That's by sure.
Yeah, that's clear. Thank you.
Xavier, are you back? So you can ask the two additional questions.
Would you like me to open Mr. Suarez's line again?
Please.
Any better? Can you hear me now?
Let's try. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I will try to make the question. If you cannot hear me, please interrupt me again. So the first question is on this working capital absorption by the energy efficiency.
Xavier, the first question, we understood the first question, but we lost you after the first question. So if you want to move to the second one, okay, thanks.
Okay, I will move to the second one. Is during the presentation there is a clear focus on water distribution asset. If you can please comment on latest consultation document for water distribution and your expectations on returns, profitability while investing in water distribution versus gas distribution assets. And the third question that is related to the second one, I was interested in your comment on the potential, the capacity of obtaining additional synergies operating together the gas and water distribution assets. If you can please elaborate on that. Thank you.
For the first question, I will pass the floor to Gianfranco, and then we take the floor back for responding about the water questions.
Okay, thanks. So for the working capital absorption by the ESCO, you have seen that the 9 months, the absorption linked to the receivable was about 180 million euro. Going forward and looking forward, I can say that it is not linear, of course, because most of the receivable will be collected and finalized by year end. So everything will end by this year, and this means that there will be an increase more than linear. And secondly, I wanted also to say that our net debt guidance for 2023, anticipated material question, assumed a neutrality of the working capital. This implies that this neutrality can be achieved through a sale to the banks of this receivable if the market, the banking market will be available to do that at reasonable cost. Otherwise, we will have this asset, this receivable in our balance sheet, and as we said before, we will have a material cash in next year by June of around 120 million euro.
Going back to your second question, Xavier, I think that the consultation document that was recently issued by the regulator is very nice. I mean, we just take a look, and honestly, is in line with our expectation. First of all, they are proposing to move the regulatory period from the actual 4 years to 6 years, so they will align this number to the gas distribution number. So that is fine. But I think more even important is on the quality, technical quality that they are looking for the water network. And honestly, I can translate them in one single word: let's digitize the network to achieve all the targets set by or indicated by the authority. When you are talking about resilience, a water distribution should be resilient, can only be resilient if you digitize the network. Otherwise, you will never be able to manage that network in that way. In the moment in which you say the water distribution should achieve energy efficiency target, should achieve an increased amount of water to be reused, the only way you can do it is through digitization of the network, because that's the only way in which you can measure what you are doing. So we are very pleased about that, and I'm getting to the third element, quite relevant, but we are very pleased about that because it goes exactly in the direction that we have envisaged when we described to you the strategy on the water distribution. Finally, last but not least, the regulator will recognize the so-called extra cost in 2022 about the electricity, the cost of the electricity that all the water operators were incurred in 2022 due to the high cost of energy that was recorded. And I should recall you that among all the operational costs in the water distribution, one significant part is covered by the energy cost. So if you are efficient in using your water and pumping the water, you will reduce significantly the cost, the operational cost. Last question, sorry, I will just forget. The synergy, I mean, is going to be a very challenging test for us. Never experienced anywhere in Italy. Our idea is clearly that because we are managing the gas distribution in Latina, that is the only area where there is a clear overlap between our gas operations and the water operation, we will coordinate, let me say, Italgas Reti, our company, with Acqualatina, to intervene at the same time when they need to intervene, and to avoid to duplicate the intervention, reducing in that way the impact on the local community and increasing our synergy. So we will do it. There's no doubt about that, and we'll demonstrate that we can do it. Thanks.
Next question, please. The next question is from James Brand of Deutsche Bank. Please go ahead.
Hi, well done on the good results. I'll try and speak slowly, so hopefully you can hear me okay. I had questions on kind of two different topics. Firstly, on DEPA, I wanted to just check with you. Obviously, you have the new allowed return on capital this year, whether you're expecting to outperform that or perform in line with the allowed return. And secondly, are you still expecting a full regulatory review at the end of this year to take effect from next year, or do you expect another kind of 1 year rollover? And then on the kind of eco bonus, super bonus, I was wondering whether you could confirm how much working capital you had built up now. And you helpfully mentioned that you would see this 120 million reversal coming through next year. So would you be able to comment more broadly on when you'd a slightly longer profile on the reversal of the working capital? Over how many years would you expect to recoup what you put in? Thank you very much.
Well, on the first question, my answer is, I mean, look at our past, our track record. I mean, we will always be able to outperform the allowed return because we are more efficient than the average of our industry. So I'm expecting we'll continue to do that. And the demonstration that you can see is on the cost, if you look at the like-for-like efficiency, is that even though there is a significant inflation all over Europe, we were able to completely contain the increase of cost and to, have a very slim efficiency. Let me say like-for-like is the same cost, but with the efficiency completely recovered. Regarding your second question, is you are relevant to the Greece, right? The second question is relevant to the regulation in Greece, if I well understood. As you know, there has been, let me say, an interim resolution by the regulator in Greece that gave us the new WACC for 2023, that is 8.57%. That's been supported by a law that was passed by the Parliament. Now we are in the discussion with the regulator to complete the 4 years, as always, so to cover the tariff for 2024, 25, and 26, and we hope that before the year end, we should get those tariffs and confirmation of the WACC for the remaining 3 years. And so by the end of the year, now we will be fully on board on the fourth year's regulation period. So the interim, as you know, was done because they wanted to see the evolution of the inflation, they wanted to see the evolution of the interest rate, and that's, 2023 has been a year in which they were able to look at a different scenario, a different macroeconomic scenario in respect to the previous regulatory period. If I well responded to you, I will pass the floor to Gianfranco regarding the Superbonus questions.
Yes. Regarding the Superbonus absorption of cash up to now, I can give you the calculation, how we calculated the 180 million for the 9 months 2023. We have the negative absorption due to the increase in working capital, that is around 220 million euro. And as a positive, of course, we have the net income and the D&A of the company, which takes into account the tax impact of the 40 million that we have compensated in the tax spending this year in June. So you deduct this, let's say, 40 million euro from the 220 million euro. This is for this year. For last year, we have a net impact, a lower impact, because the Superbonus activity was starting of around 100 million euro.
Next question, please. The next question is from Emanuele Oggioni of Kepler. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, thank you for taking my questions. The first one is your outlook on deflator to be applied to 2025 RAB. So the deflator which will be published basically at the end of next year for 2023. If you remind me what is your assumption included in the business plan for 25 and 26 RAB effect on tariff? Thank you. And the second question is on the expected contribution for the water business in Q4. So as you will consolidate these assets and the acquired assets, and the expected contribution, if possible, in 2024 in terms of EBITDA and also capex and cash flow generation, free cash flow generation, if possible. Thank you.
The last question is practically impossible to respond. I would probably go and present a new strategic plan for the water. So, but I will try to give you some indication. Regarding the deflator in 2025, we have in our plan, we have 3.4%. That is our best estimate today. It's going to happen? We don't know, honestly. And we need to take a look. So it's difficult to say. Regarding the water contribution, the reason why we presented to you the 2022 result is to let you understand and appreciate the number of the 3 companies we acquired, plus the one that are all of them are in this called Netta company. So if I look at the fourth quarter, honestly, today is tough to say which is going to be the contribution as the profit, because as you know, we can only consolidate Siciliacque, the other ones will not be consolidated. So you can take, a look at those 2022 number, increasing by a little bit, probably because they are performing slightly better, and then divided by 4. But that is going really to be a guess also for us. We have just started a few days ago to take a look at the company. So for us it's difficult. Then, if you are asking me for 2024, it's even more difficult because we started, honestly, from the revision of the CapEx plan. That for us is the number one priority because that is linked to the release of the funds from the recovery and resilience plan. Why so important? Because we need to understand which is the status of the plan, if they are well on track, what they need to be supported, because remember that to get those funds, we need to close all the works by 2026, so we don't have a lot of time in front of us, and we want to revise them. So our first week focus has been, let's go through in details all those plans, network, so the hard part, software parts, so the IT, the digital transformation, the digital equipment. Let us understanding what you want to do and what we can help you in order to make it real by the end of 2026. That for us is the utmost important item. So we have not started yet to look at the numbers for 2024. I'm sure that in the next conference call, we'll probably give you more data about 2024 water contribution. Sorry for that, but that is the best information I can tell you.
Thank you, very clear.
Next question, please. The next question is from Stefano Gamberini of Equita. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for taking my questions. The first is regarding the slide number 7. If I'm not wrong, I noticed that the RAB at the end of 2022 was in the region of 274 million euros regarding the 3 water company you purchased, while on the other side, adding the adjusted net debt of 70 million euros to the price you paid, your price was by far lower to this RAB, means around a 30% discount versus the RAB. Could you share with us why you decided to offer such a lower price versus RAB in this sector? What are the main drivers, and what is, in theory, your expectation in the future regarding the evaluation of the company versus the RAB? In particular, I'm interested also to understand what is the level of delinquency rate in this area, the people that do not pay the bills, if this is, we can say, a problem for you or not. The second, regarding the guidance on full year EBITDA, if I'm not wrong, is 1,180 million euros. Does it include also the you can say the revenues that you expect for the decommissioned meters that are recognized by ARERA? I guess not, because this happened in October from your press release, and you expect a quantification in the first quarter. I'm interested to understand if this is material or not. And lastly, if you can share with us your thoughts about the trend of the RAB deflator. What I mean is, we noticed that in the second quarter 23, the gross fixed investment deflator was just 1% versus a CPI at 7%. I know that it's difficult to understand why, but what is the expectations that we can see in the forthcoming quarters, and if the gap remains so high, will you ask some adjustment to the regulator in the future? Many thanks.
The first question, there is one part that I'm not going to respond. That is the question in which why we offer so less. So I'm not going to respond to that, of course, Stefano. I'm sure you understand that. The first part, look, I mean, the RAB, the one that you mentioned, 273.9 million, is the one relevant to us. So 49% of Acqua Latina, 46%, 47% of Acqua Campania, 100% of Italgas Acqua, so the Caserta concession, and 75% of Sicilia Acqua. The full RAB is 412 million euros. So, and the similar, the net debt adjusted is the overall 120, and the relevant to the part of net 69. And I'm going to tackle that part of the earn-out of the price is relevant to the reduction of the delinquency rate either in Siciliacque and Acqualatina. So in fact there is a delinquency rate that is, I mean, very similar to the other company in that region. One of the let me say the objective that we fully agree with Veolia is to if we are able to reduce this delinquency rate and recover some of the receivable, the past receivable, we will pay them an earn-out. So that is exactly linked. The earn-out is linked to that point. Regarding the guidance that we provided to you does not include the fact that ARERA will recognize to us additional amount of money for the decommissioned meters that are up to, if I remember well, installed up to 2018. Which is going to be the impact, honestly, we have our time. We are trying to, in this day, because it just came out, calculated and understanding the approach of the regulator. You need also to consider that on the other side there is going to be the depreciation, the accelerated depreciation of these items that are taking out from the network. So from one side there is the additional revenues, from the other side there is the additional depreciation, so the accelerated depreciation. Regarding the last question, you know very well that the deflator represents something different, significantly different in respect to the CPI. Deflator represents, let me say, the inflation for, let me say, construction and for everything that is related to machinery and other stuff like that. It has nothing to do with the CPI. Well, it has little to do with CPI. And in fact, I told you, I think in other questions like that in the past, that on the CapEx side we have experienced little inflation. I mean, we call them inflation, but at the end of the day are exactly, let me say, what is correspondent to the deflator. So we have seen little increase or little request of increase, except in 2022. I'm talking about 2023. Little increase in terms of, let me say, price related to material and other stuff. And so, I mean, the deflator recorded, the one that you recorded being at 1%, is consistent with what we experience on the CapEx side. So, honestly, I don't see why should I go to the regulator and asking for different. Still, I like the rules to be applied as we know. Predictability of those rules and not changing the rule to me is a value. And on top of that, in terms of content, there is, let me say, a consistency between deflator from one side and what we are experiencing in terms of increase of cost on the CapEx side.
Many thanks.
Next question, please. Ms. Scaglia, gentlemen, there are no more questions at this time.
Well, thank you very much for everyone attending, and if you need any follow-up, as IR team, we are available. Thank you.